Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be visiting with a longtime friend. I want to say Justin Russell and his wife Ashley. James and I've known for quite a few years now, and we're happy that Justin's agreed to talk with us today. And we're kind of embarking on a big month of June. But let's start by asking you, Justin, how did you and Ashley get started in beekeeping?
Real quick, Ashley told me that she wanted to keep bees. I wanted bees whenever I was a kid. My mom told me no. I got older. I said I could do what I want now. I'm grown up. So Ashley and I went to one of the schools, and Ashley was supposed to go with me. She bailed. It was just me, and I pretty much was like, I want to get some bees, and that was a couple years ago. And
Yeah.
I got one package, and it kind of escalated. And we grew into almost about 100 hives our first year, and then it was a snowball effect. And we're running, I don't know, depending on what day it is and how hot it is, and splits, probably about 1,500 hives.
Wow.
So we have about 100 locations. We haven't been doing this very long, but we're learning as we go. I believe we started in 2015, so this is year 8
Wow.
or 7 for us, something like that. I don't know. But we do run a small commercial operation. We do almonds, any type of pollination, run honey, of course, nukes, ag exemption, pretty much anything that somebody needs, we're going to try to service them. But we are a smaller operation compared to some people. And some people think it's big, but I look at it, I'm like, oh, we could get much bigger. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you and I both know a lot of beekeepers that do have more than that, but I can tell you, 1,500 hives is a lot of hives. We've never even come close to that. And so y'all went from zero to crazy overnight, really.
oh, yeah, pretty much.
Did. But that's you're at a good number from what I understand. And any beekeepers out there watching this that are thinking that they want to make this a business, it's doable. Because even 2015, although that wasn't that long ago, it's in bee years. That's a long time. And you've made a very good business of it. The name of your business is Prime Bees. I want to get that out there. And
Oh, yeah, thanks.
y'all are to be admired. I'm impressed. I always have been, and I love you both. You're good folks. So let's talk about what June is. So you're adding supers. You started adding supers when? When did you start adding supers?
So we pretty much ended up with, we try to finish up most of our major splits that'll be production hives last month, right? So we want everything out and about getting fed in April. And May is kind of a good, strong buildup. It really depends where you're at and what kind of flow you have going on. But yes, we started supering up. We started throwing supers on and doubling and tripling in April, just to get prepped up. If we have a really strong double in April, I want to give them the room and let them keep going. So of course we're throwing on supers and we're letting them grow and continue. But yes, this is the time where we're done feeding unless it's a baby hive. If we're trying to do a buildup, of course we're going to be feeding. But right now, any type of honey production, we've cut off any feeding, and we're just adding boxes.
I love that you said that because it probably isn't as well understood by newer beekeepers that we truly use that honey super as added space for bees that are busting in April. You can't stress that enough, that adding that super, even if it's mid-April, just a minute before the flow starts, it's going to prevent that swarming. It's going to give that hive, they're going to go, okay, I got a little more room, and they're going to be less likely to try to bust out of there. But I'm glad you said that. So are you at 2 and 3 supers a hive right now in College Station area?
So so you got to remember also that we run 10 counties. With a little bit over 100 locations. So we have a little bit over there and a little bit here. And so we have certain areas that are doing great and that we're adding supers, and we have 4 deeps on. And we have some stuff that is struggling to fill a second box. And so that's why whenever people are like, what should I be doing? it's really, really subjective, and it depends what's going on, what's flowering, where your location is, what kind of rainfall we've had. And these are all things that whenever you're looking in a hive, there's telltale signs to figure out what's going on and what you should be doing. And so yard per yard, we have to make these management decisions. And so that's why we train up pretty good on it.
Yeah.
So there is no like, oh yeah, for sure it's June 1st. I need to make sure and have this many supers on or anything. It's really how your bees are doing and what your population looks like, and if they're actually bringing something in, you know.
Truly hive specific completely. Last month's issue, which would have been the May issue that goes out end of April, I did a drought chart, which I do each month for the magazine, and it looked bad. It looked bad. It looked like we were giving blood. It looked like the state of Texas was giving blood, literally. But our area, my area, Southeast Texas, I'm in Montgomery County, and I know you've got 100 locations. So is that drought area? Some of it's bound to be in some of that really severe drought area. How are they doing?
So we do have some stuff that is in drier parts, but even the stuff that I've seen that's dry, the bee balm or the horse mint is still coming up. And then also a majority of our stuff is up and down Highway 6, which is a big one here. And Highway 6 has gotten quite a bit of rain up and down it. And then if we know something is getting affected and they're not putting on any nectar, there's nothing in it, and it's getting really dry and all they have is reserves, we will be feeding. So we just loaded a feed rig out today for some stuff out in Robertson County, which is way out there. And we're going to go check it because I kind of have a feeling that they dried up. And I'd much rather my bees survive and do their thing than to worry so much that like, oh no, I'm not making honey. Because at the end of the day, I just really want to keep my bees alive and healthy. And if we make honey or make any type of product, that's just a blessing.
You know, Justin, that is excellent advice, because I think that a lot of, especially newer and maybe even first 3-year beekeepers, we think it's a contest. You know, how much honey can I get, or how many boxes can I go by and say I got 3 supers on? It's not that. It's exactly what you said. You're not going to make diddly for honey if you got a dead hive, right?
Exactly.
It's not going to happen. So that's exactly what we all should be doing, is concentrate on the health of the hive first, and then we go from there. Healthy hives do better with a honey yield than an unhealthy or even marginal hive. So that's a very, very good plan. So what are your indicators when do you stop? So if we're talking June, into y'all's nectar flow, even though you're talking about a broad area, we typically say end of June. Is that where you are in that stretch as well?
I kind of look at around anywhere June 15th to June 20th is whenever I want to start pretty much pulling everybody off. Right. In my mindset, I like to be done, and I want to take vacation around July 4th. Right.
Yeah,
so I want to enjoy July 4th. So I try to get out of the state or we work 7 days a week, sun up, sun down for months. And then I'm finally like, hey, like I really just like, let's get done with this honey thing. Let's get it extracted. Let's put some boxes back out, give them some room. And I always have this feeling like, even if they're still pulling a little bit, even after we pull all the honey supers off and they're still bringing in nectar, I just kind of look at that and say, look, we were going to have to turn around and feed everybody anyway. So let them just keep pulling some stuff in. If they put on a little bit of weight, I'm not going to get mad at them. Right. I usually don't get mad at the bees whenever they're pulling in honey and filling it up. Usually I just get mad at myself because I didn't get boxes on in time and they backfilled the brood nest or something. I'm like, yeah, this is all my fault. And I curse them a little bit and then I laugh and we find room and give it to them.
Move on. Do you put your supers back on after you extract, I guess? Briefly for them to clean them, or no?
It really depends what we have going on. So with what we do, sometimes a lot of that comb will go into actually brood boxes. because we'll end up doing gluten for punishment kind of thing. So in July, we will run another round of splits. And with a round of splits, we're going to have comb, even though honeycomb doesn't work as well as brood comb whenever you're putting it in a brood chamber, it's better than non-drawn foundation. And so I do a large set of splits in July, which is miserable. I don't recommend it for anybody, but we do, a couple hundred splits in July to make up for any losses from the honey season. And we always seem to suffer our largest losses in July and August in the middle of the heat. And so we kind of make up splits and find little shaded yards to keep the babies at and stuff. And we use all that comb. We do have comb storage. So we do put away quite a bit of the comb for the following year, but we like to try to cycle it into production.
So am I to understand that you are deep supers? You run deep supers?
We run pretty much anything we can get our hands on because of the size of our operation.
I know that feeling.
It's one of those things like, I don't even know what this box is. Like, we just need a box. No matter how much I prepare, and I try to explain this to people, I could stock up and I could have a warehouse full of boxes and I will run out of boxes just because it's one of those things that if we see it, we have it, we want to use it. And so right now, we're sitting on maybe 50 supers for the whole operation to push out in case we need them. And I'm kind of, no, like we're going to run out of boxes. And we run out of boxes every year. And some of them are mediums and some of them are deeps. For some reason, there's some shallows floating around here and there that I really want to get rid of. And then there's that weird size that, that 7 and whatever that I don't even know how they got in operation, but like all of a sudden, like I'll find one in a yard that somebody found and like it's there. This is not right.
It's because somebody gave it to you somewhere, Dustin.
It was free. It definitely was free.
Sure, of course.
Our yards. So I typically like to run a double deep, and then whatever goes above that double deep is just either we're drawing out more deeps or we do have medium honey supers that we run. So example, we have a yard down on Tallow right now on the San Gabriel River. It's a little hot, a yard, probably like 30 or 40, somewhere in there. And it has nothing but mediums on top of the deeps. But then you get to a lot of the stuff around here and around Bryan College Station, and it's just going to be nothing but deeps. It really depends what we have available. If I got it, I'm going to use it. I really wish I was totally uniform and everything, like all my boxes were pretty and all my equipment was new, but my fingers crossed one day I'll be there. But right now we work with what we have.
And I can totally relate to that. There's no continuity when you're but I think the most important thing is that you've got healthy, good, thriving bees. It's a beauty contest in the boxes, and continuity and sizes in reality would be great. But I don't even think even the largest commercial beekeepers can say they run all mediums and all deeps. It's a hodgepodge, and probably it has a lot to do with the different yards, how much they pull. When I hear you talk about deeps, I think in 2020 we ran mostly deeps, and it about killed us pulling honey. But you're a lot younger than we are, so that helps. Just remember, vouch yourself another 10, 15 years, and those deeps are going to turn into brood boxes.
So I do have help around here. It's not just me. I definitely have a few young fellows that work here. They probably curse the deeps more than I do because I'm used to it. And they don't expect it to be, 90 pounds whenever they pick up a box. And I'm just like,
but they are.
Yeah, I'll grab one and throw it on the thing, and then they'll go and they'll look at me and they're like, "You're old. How are you doing this?" I'm like, "Not that old." They are heavy boxes. So anybody who doesn't want to lift something that's 80, 90, almost 100 pounds, I definitely recommend always using medium supers for honey.
That's a good recommendation. So do you run excluders or no?
Most of the time, no. So we are not a true honey producing company. We produce honey because it's there and we can do it. But at the end of the day, our primary focus is going to be on pollination and raising a large amount of bees and making sure that we have a lot of bees and making sure that we could fill all the yards that we're supposed to be in, because we have contracts on most of our yards and we have to be there. So we need large amount of bees. So at the end of the day, if I have a, well, plus sometimes you run into trouble with them going past the excluder to, fill up a honey super and stuff. And like you run into problems. But most of the time we don't even bother. If they brood up a third box, I don't even get mad, because we do run. And there's a couple hundred of our hives are 1.5s, which are going to be a medium and a deep. So we do run that configuration, especially for pollination services, because you can fit more of those on a truck. And plus, one of the guys I share a truck with, to help his load out, he runs 1.5s. So I've kind of conformed that half load to ride with him as 1.5. So, if I get a honey super that they brood up, I just look at it and go, okay. And we'll usually end up taking that and dropping it to the very bottom, and then kind of working the boxes and figuring out what we can and can't take and make it work. I don't ever get upset with them because they're just doing what they feel like they need to do. Because at the end of the day, our operation, what we do, I'd rather have more brood than more honey, because the brood is going to make me more bees, and I need the bees.
Sure.
At the end of the day, I don't truly need the honey, because we are in, we're not in that super honey focus where it's like, oh, let's make so many barrels and make all this money off of honey and everything. Instead, our primary focus is how many hives can we get to, how many yards can we fill out, and how many can we service and still do a good job.
Well, and that means you're in the bee business. It means you're in the bee business, not so much the honey business, since it's a byproduct, which, hey, I mean, I think there's probably, for future commercial beekeepers or sideliner beekeepers, there's probably as much, if not more, money in bees than there is in honey. And might be a little more fun to work with too, less messy for sure.
I figured some of these things out. Like it's whenever we look at profit and where your margins are and how to make a little bit of cash doing bees. I think the bees are more valuable than the honey, all day, because more bees can make more bees, and more bees. But honey is not going to make you anything but a bottle or a drum or something of that nature.
Sure. But it also helps keep your name out there too. I get that. You mentioned, right. You mentioned summer splits. We do a summer splits class, and I think that there's a segment that really don't want to go there. They're spring or they're fall. But I get you. I mean, you just come off of major population growth. It's really and truly, it's a great time. You've got some really, good, strong bees.
Yep.
So what's the downside in Justin's head of summer splits?
So one of the downsides is definitely going to have to pull out the feeder, and we're going to have to feed. So whenever we start splitting stuff up in the summer, feed is very crucial. I think shade is also crucial. Like, a lot of people aren't going to think about this, but the smaller the hive, or whenever we break stuff up, they don't have that. They're not, I don't know the proper term of it, but they're not used to, so that you're taking their house and you're cutting it up. And so they don't have everything set where they want it set.
They're not acclimated to it.
Yep. And they don't know how to use their air conditioner properly and all that.
Right.
And a larger hive can actually regulate its temperature better than a smaller hive because of the population. So what we see is, somebody does a bunch of splits, puts them in nuke boxes or whatever, puts them out in full sun, and it cooks them. And it's a shame, but you really got to kind of tuck them in and find good shaded spots, keep the feed on them, make sure your population's good. The biggest downside, I believe, in doing summer splits is I firmly believe you need to use mated queens whenever you're doing it, and you can't be using queen cells like most of the commercial operations do. And mated queens, of course, cost more. But one of the reasons we do the summer splits is because most of the queen rearing operations are going to sell their queens for less in July and August than they do in the spring. So it's kind of like, hey, I'm getting mated queens at a discount because they're trying to unload because they think that everything's done with. And we're like, we kind of raise bees almost year round here in Texas. It's kind of like Florida.
Yeah. And I want to qualify that it's in bulk, not necessarily per queen. You're getting, it's the breeders you're talking about. That's where you get yours from. Am I right on that?
Yeah. So we'll order 50, 100, 200 or whatever mated queens from a major supplier, and we'll definitely get a discount on it. Instead of looking at like a $40 or $45 queen, you're finally like, you're looking back to the old days whenever they were 25. And sometimes you get some free shipping or something like that.
Yeah.
We do raise queens at our operation now, specifically so that we have a buildup of mated queens. So we run about 200 maters right now in our main yard, and we have a rotation going. We have some breeder stock, and we're doing some stuff to basically so we don't have to rely so much on other people.
That's good to know. That helps you out. That helps your bottom line out too, you know. Really and I always thought that doing queen rearing, James did a really in-depth program on that multiple years ago. It gave me a better understanding of just what's really going on, just breeding queens. Really. Oh
yeah, for sure.
Very fascinating aspect of beekeeping. So $1 million question. So you're basically feeding after honey production, from what I understand.
Yes.
What about Varroa, the big V word?
So depending what our numbers are at, we're going to look at doing a knockdown, some type of treatment in August. We probably could do the treatment as early as July, but we're doing splits in July. And so we like to get everything kind of settled. And then in August and first part of September, you really need to know your Varroa count and figure out what's going on, in my world anyway. So there's certain people who don't care about the Varroa count, and then they just roll, and that's their choice. But with us, we need a very large population of healthy winter bees to pull us out in the very, very early spring, basically winter, whenever we pull our bees out to send to California. So I've learned the mistakes, like going in with a high Varroa count into winter, our bees look like trash in January. And that's my opinion, and that's what I've seen. So we like to get our Varroa count down in the fall before they start raising the winter bees, so that our winter bees aren't affected, and we get to pull through. And whenever it's time to kind of get them ready for almonds and get them on a truck and stuff, they're large, healthy hives compared to something that's like mediocre, like because they got a journey to go, and they got a job to do in another state, and it is stressful on the bees. So we want the healthiest, strongest bees that we have to be able to do that journey.
That's a very good answer. And I mean, you drilled it right down to what it is. Varroa under control. The benefit of that is healthy hives. And, you know, when it's your real money, when that's your income, it matters more. Well, you've created a Varroa treatment just by your splits. I mean, you've got a brood break there, and that's very helpful. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a reprieve till August, I guess, is what you indicated, that's when you start testing. But you've got them under control by September. You're preparing, and your textbook on this, you're preparing for winter. Now, really, as soon as you extract, you're prepared. There's two kinds of bees, isn't that what Randy Oliver said? Spring bees and winter bees, right? You've done the spring, now you're preparing for winter. And that's good stuff. So addressing the heat, this will be my last question, and I'll let you close it up. But so you were addressing the splits and the heat. What about your, what I probably is the wrong term, but I term as my production hives that I just keep, my double deeps, and I keep going. How do you address heat? Are you keeping them tucked under some nice shade during the summer, or are they out and you not worry, or what are you doing with that?
So with production hives and our larger, we call them parent colonies, usually, I don't worry too much about them. This is going to sound really selfish, but I worry about myself a lot. And I personally don't like being in the sun all day, every day. And it's more enjoyable for me to work a hive that has a little bit of shade during the day. So if I can find something that where the shade is cast after like 2 or 3 o'clock, then I have a higher incentive to look through that hive. And if I'm going to look through the hive and actually work the hive, that hive's going to do better than usually something that I just totally don't ever want to touch again. So whenever we look at it, we kind of look for tree lines, or we look to, have a tree around so that we can have a little bit of shade thrown on that set of hives at some point during the day. Because for me, it's more enjoyable to work in the shade at 95 degrees than full sun at 95 degrees. And if I can get in it and enjoy it, then it makes it a more pleasurable experience. And I think it helps out the bees.
That's really unique that you tied those two together, because I've never thought of it that way. If you are more likely to go work the bees because it's better, more conducive, cooler for you, then the hives are going to be the benefactor of that. Very good philosophy. Very good. I do have days where I remember us taking the canopy and going from hives to cluster to cluster to cluster, just so we could stand it, because it's hot. It is hot. And crawling under the shade of your truck. Have you ever done that? Crawl into the shade of the truck?
No, what we usually leave the trucks running with the AC.
We do too.
So the whole time we're in a bee yard, we'll have the AC running. Yeah. And so if we need a water or a break or whatever, it's like, hey, just jump in the truck for a little bit.
Jump in. Yeah.
And we do use the canopy because a lot of times our bees are in a row. And so we'll do the pop-up tent, and we'll kind of move it down the line, especially for splits in July, because it's so hot out there. And we really try to get out bee yard early, but it's like 9 o'clock and it's already hot. And so we'll pull out the pop-up tent and work it down the line with us, just because. But that whole philosophy about, if your bees are in a more enjoyable spot for you, it comes down to like where you place your bees too on your property. If you put your bees in the very, very back of your property where you never see them, you're never going to think about them, and you're never going to check them. You're never going to add boxes. But then also you don't want them so close to wherever you live that they're going to be a nuisance. So I always tell people, I'm like, I like to be able to see them from my house or from my, like, where I work on my property, but I don't want them so close that it's like, get these out of my face. But you don't want to, if you put them on the other side of the pond where you have to go through like a marsh and you have to like ride a gator to get back there and everything, like you're gonna check on them like 3 times a year, and you're not gonna be on top of your game.
That's very good advice. James has planted 2 at my kitchen window. It's like looking into an aquarium every day, all day, every day. It's wonderful, but that is not our working. That's not our production hives. It's just enjoyment hives, right?
They're pets.
They're pets. They are. Yeah. We've named them. I'm not going to tell you the names, but we've named them. So in closing, what's something if I'm a seasoned but mid-term beekeeper, what's good advice from Justin Russell going into what really is summer, June, even July? What's good advice for you to take away from you?
I mean, like the whole heat thing and hydration and all that, of course, is like that. Like I feel like a mom saying, make sure you keep hydrated out there because heat stroke isn't fun. But I also like to remind people, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, that whatever you're doing in the beekeeping world, you need to make sure that you get some type of enjoyment out of it. And you got to put it into a way that I'm not saying you have to go out there and have a barrel of laughs, but you have to be able to enjoy it, or it comes down to it, like, why are we really doing this? And most people I talk to, I ask them why they're always beekeeping, and then they, give me their reasons. I'm like, well, you're going to have to find some enjoyment out of this, or it's going to be just another hobby that goes to the wayside. And you got to make it fun, and you got to find the times in the day where it's actually enjoyable and pleasurable to be out there. Because if you're out there and you're having a miserable time and you're sweating and you're cursing and you just don't want to be out there, then you're not going to go out there. So I always tell people to find the time in the day and where it's not going to be miserable out there for you, and enjoy it. Because if you're not enjoying it, then it's like, why are we doing it?
It's a chore then. Very good advice, Justin. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I enjoyed it. We're gonna have you back. You never know. Keep a watch out on your text messages and email. Thanks so much. And y'all stay warm. I stay warm. You will stay warm. Stay cool.
Very warm.
And we'll talk soon. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.